I've been eyeballing the possibility of restructuring elementary campuses for a long time. I actually have talked about it pretty freely. I don't feel like I've tried to keep it a secret necessarily. And that's the gist of it. I wanted conversation. I've wanted, there are plenty of people that are willing to tell me why they like the idea because they know I like the idea. But as we mentioned last night, sometimes people won't tell the boss, something they think he doesn't want to hear. And that's maybe been the tough part. Is I guess there's been some people that we've known that were out there that didn't really care for the idea, but maybe they weren't sharing it. And finally, in the last few weeks, just through the ways that we've been able to share it in different arenas, people have kind of started speaking out, which has been good. A lot of things have been pointed out that we would really need to consider and look at to make a change like that. So much so that in the last few weeks it's been very clear that this is not something we could do this year. And so it's going to cause us to just keep talking about it. And I know people fear the unknown. I get that. It gives them anxiety, and nobody wants to not know where they're going to work and that kind of thing. And I hate that part of it. But the simplicity of it is I just want to talk about it. Let's talk about what this would look like, what impact it would have. There's just no denying there's a lot of positive possibilities there, but there's also some pitfalls and negatives that you got to consider and look at. So that's kind of where we're at.
Kind of one of the key portions of that, probably driving this a lot, is the fact that you're not real keen on a campus with one grade, specifically the fifth grade, which is kind of a key grade.
Right. The easiest way to say it, and depending on where you consider pre-K. Not all kids have to go to pre-K. So currently, you're going to go to our kindergarten, you're going to go to a 1-2, you're going to go to a 3-4, and you're going to go to a 5. You're going to make 4 transitions before middle school. And statistically, transitions are not necessarily good. If you can eliminate that many transitions, learning a new set of rules, a new set of principles, a new set of counselors, 4 would go to 2 in this case, and even 2 is I'd prefer to not. There's a lot of campuses in the state of Texas that are basically K through 5 or K through 4, and you kind of get that one big chunk. We do have to take into consideration the facilities we have, the situations we have, but cutting 4 transitions to 2 is probably my primary goal. And yes, that includes a single grade campus. Certainly adds to the fact that it's 1-2-2-1. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of a single grade campus. People that know me know I like for our teachers to work in teams, to be collaborative. I'm just hopeful that when a 5th and a 4th grade teacher could collaborate about, hey, what is it we need to be doing for you, vice versa, that's always better than working alone. And so those are kind of the big driving forces there.
Yeah, you feel like the grades could actually improve, or test scores could improve in the 5th grade with some synergy with 4th grade, I believe, with their being together.
I believe so, and I believe there's some evidence, particularly, for instance, in science. We test in science, say, only in the 5th grade, and, you never want to assume or basically insinuate that 4th grade's not teaching science. But in a 3rd and 4th grade campus where they don't take a science test and what have you, it's sometimes hard to get motivated. It's sometimes hard to give the effort that you need because you're concentrating on the math and reading that you are going to be tested on, and in 4th grade's case, even the writing. Not that a restructure is just a magic pill or anything, but just in science alone, the idea that those 5th grade teachers would have a certain amount of access to 4th grade in the collaboration of the science teaching. I mean, in so many ways, you could look at it as opposed to 5th grade saying, all right, we got 1 year to get this science curriculum in. They could almost split that in 2 and be viewed as a 4 or 5 unit and say we've got 2 years to cover this material, if you will, to get them ready for the science test.
Probably the toughest sell to anything would be the ECLC changes. People with the youngest of the kids.
Sure. ECLC was built specifically for what it is, and I certainly understand. Not really wanting to see any change there. I get it totally. There's a lot of things we would have to consider to make that move, and a lot of things we got to talk about there. It's not ideal. I mean, the points that were made last night. On behalf of ECLC not moving are very valid points. It was something we got to look at and it's still there's a big picture problem there that they're a part of solving, so to speak. Not necessarily that there is a problem at ECLC, and it's always hard to, why do we have to move to fix a bigger problem? But that's part of it. It's part of them moving would help a bigger problem, so to speak, and that's kind of a big picture view.
How do you get your input and your dialogue going now? Or will there be public hearings or sessions, or how do you see that happening?
Well, I've kind of let the faculty know I'm going to go around and do some presentations on the campuses, which I've done a few, and they've been good. I mean, each time they've said, "Hey, just kind of hearing some of the things and getting through some of the, once again, fear of the unknown." I feel like to get around and just visit is going to help some people. Yes, at some point we're going to need to have some kind of community forum, hear from parents and what have you. It's my understanding there's a lot of parents in favor of less transitions, but there's also, like you saw last night, some parents that aren't really excited about anything changing about ECLC, and I get that too. So it's just we've got to have some dialogue. I mean, somebody suggested, well, can't you just put everybody in the auditorium at one time? Well, now you kind of get too big to really get productive conversation going. So once you have this conversation in one spot, it travels fast, and you just can't get around fast enough to talk about it. So that's kind of where we're at, but we're working through it.
Yeah, one of the things you said, that you're almost, when you're doing these presentations, you're on rumor control. Because,
sure.
You're doing outlandish things according to some,
sure.
that you hear about and you say, where in the world did that come from,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a natural thing. I don't, and we talked about it pretty heavy last night. People fear the unknown, and it causes anxiety. And until the unknown is not an unknown anymore, there's just anxiety there, and it is almost comical. We can all make reference to how rumors get going, but and I don't know how that happens really. But yes, there's been some things said that I don't know where they came from. So I don't know what you do about it. But we're just trying to have conversation. That's really all we're at right now is trying to kind of let everybody be heard and let everybody say their piece. And there's been some things said that I've had to say, oh yeah, we need to check that out. I hadn't thought of that. So it's been good.